Hello again, this is Bander Tyrell, and I'm going to be doing a video today that was requested by, well, it wasn't really requested. I was talking to somebody in Second Life, and they had a bunch of questions and wanted me to try to explain some things to them, and I thought the easiest way for me to do that would be to do a demonstration video and explain as I go what I'm doing and why, so that you can actually see the process of going from Blender to Substance Painter to Second Life. Now, I know that Blender has some new material tools in Blender 4.3 that kind of make Substance Painter no longer really necessary, but I have a lot of assets in Substance Painter, so I still like to use it. So until I learn how to do everything in Blender, I'm just going to keep doing this. Plus, what I saw of it looked more like Substance Designer than Substance Painter. Anyway, but I have a lot to learn on that, so I'll be probably doing some videos on that as I go through it and learn how to do it in 4.3. But until then, I'm still using Substance Painter, and so this video is going to show some stuff. Okay, so the person had an object that they wanted to texture in Substance Painter, and this object was made up of several different components. So I'm going to make something that has a bunch of different components of different shapes and things to look at. It's not going to be the exact same thing or close to the same thing as what the person was building, but the concepts will be the same. So it'll be an object with multiple different kinds of parts. So let's start off with that. I'm just going to build let's start with a glass. I'm going to make a glass. All right. Got to remember how to do everything now. I haven't been in Blender in over a week and a half to 2 weeks, and I'm already forgetting everything. So, okay. We're going to start with a cylinder. We're going to make sure that that cylinder has enough faces. I think 32 is probably too many, but we'll drop it down to 24. That's probably good enough. And then it looks kind of like I'm trying to make like a whiskey glass. Okay. That looks probably pretty good. We're going to inset that. Drop it down somewhere about there. How far did it go? Oh, that was a good guess. All right, that's about where I wanted it. All right, so there's my glass. And then I have to UV map this, so let's go ahead and do that. All right. Edge, mark seam on that. I'm going to keep the bottom of this because I want it to be see-through. Edge, mark seams on those. I want it to cut like right here. And so we'll mark a seam on that. Okay, let's go to UV mapping. Make sure we're transparency or X-ray is turned on. Select everything and unwrap. Okay, so there we have the UV map for that. And then since we're going to be targeting Substance Painter, we have to apply materials to everything to get them to show up in Substance Painter as editable components. It doesn't go by the parts. So you would think that I would save this as a cup, right? There's a glass, let's call it glass. Right? That loading this object into Substance Painter, it would show up as a separate object and you would work on it that way, but that's not how it works. It goes by materials. And so I'm going to go ahead and shade smooth on that. Now you'll notice what happens when I shade smooth on that. It deforms because I don't have enough geometry here. I don't have edge loops close to the edge, so it really rounds it off. So we need to add a couple edge loops there. Add an edge loop there. And now the sides are smooth, but the inside is completely rounded. So I'm going to go ahead and take that edge loop and we'll mark it as sharp. And it's another way of doing something similar, and then we'll put an edge loop up here. Okay. Now it looks like a glass. Let's do the bottom. So this, you have to select this face and then you do inset and then just move it in a little bit. And there we go. So our edges are a little harder so that it doesn't try to interpret that and smooth it all the way across there. So it gives us a flat face and a flat face on the inside. Okay. And then we have that done. All we have to do now for Substance Painter is to come over to the material tab here, click that, and then just click new to add a material and then give it a name, something like whiskey glass, something like that. Okay. And then if I want liquid in here and I want the liquid to look transparent and have color to it and everything like it would if it had whiskey in it, what you can do is you can create another cylinder. And then scale it down. Like so. And then select the top of it. And then drop that down to where you want it, like so. And then we don't need to really do anything else to that. Oh, one thing I forgot to do. So you need to apply your transforms. So let's do that on this one too, apply transforms. Okay. Then we're going to set a material on that, and we're going to call that whiskey. All right. I didn't create. I need to. What I did there, in case you wanted to know, I hit the question mark or the slash key to isolate that. So I have both things. You can see everything here, but I only want to work on the thing on the inside, and I don't want this to interfere with it. So select that and then hit the slash key or the question mark key, and it isolates it so you only have this one thing. And I'm going to add those edge loops here, but get them pretty tight this time. I don't really want it beveling. Really tight. And then it's hard to do that. It's hard to grab faces when you have X-ray turned on. So select both the top and the bottom, inset it, and then just a little bit. And now shade smooth, it looks like that. And then hit the slash or the question mark to exit that isolation mode. And there we have a whiskey glass with some whiskey in it. Okay. And then let's make a platform for it to sit on, like a coaster. So I'm going to do, I'll do another cylinder. This one I'm going to scale up a bit. And then scale S and then just do the Z axis. So hit Z and then lower it down. Then I'm going to lower it until it gets right there. And if I want to make that bigger, but I don't want to get the Z axis to be bigger, I can select it, hit S for scale, and then Shift Z says select everything except Z. And then when I scale it, it gets bigger. like so. And then same thing, I need to put some edge loops on here. I'm going to do... The further down you get it, the more beveled it is. Now I could just, let's do it a different way this time. We're going to bevel it this time. Okay, so first thing you want to do is Shift A and apply your transforms. And now I can do beveling a couple of different ways. I can go in here with edges selected and hit Control B to bevel it. Oh, it's not Control B, it's just B. Nope. To select your edges. And then Control B and you can pull on it like that, see? And that'll bevel it. And then you can use the scroll wheel to add faces. Like so. Or I could come over here to the modifiers and I can apply a bevel modifier and then use the controls to do it. But for this, I like to do it where I'm actually controlling it without using sliders and stuff. So Control B, pull it down where I want it, add a couple loops in there to get it where I want it. And there we have it. And so I didn't have to add edge loops because this created edge loops, and those edge loops will make sure that the faces look right. See? Okay, so now we have the whiskey. We have the whiskey glass, and this is going to be our coaster. So let's make it a little more complicated than that. Let's go inset, like so. And pull that down. And for that, I didn't bevel it. I could come back and bevel it, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to add an edge loop there. And an edge loop there. And then on this face, I will inset that to here. And I'm going to inset it to like, I don't need that one. Just need the one. Okay. And there we go. Aha, now you'll notice that this edge is screwed up. It's not screwed up, it's just, it's interpreting it when you do the shade smooth, and it's trying to smooth it off, right? So I need to put an edge loop right here. Or I could bevel that. Instead of doing the edge loops that I did, I can select them and undo it. Hit delete and then do dissolve edges. And then we'll just take that, Control B, like so. Okay. And there's not one down there, so what's going to happen when I deselect this, you're going to see that this piece all the way around is not going to be shaded smoothly. So let's go ahead and stick one right there. Okay, now it works. Ta-da! Now, what I also could have done, I could have set this loop here instead of doing edge loops around there or the inset. I could have set that loop and made it sharp. By making it sharp, it would force these things to behave. We're going to keep the bottom on that too. All right, so there's a coaster, a glass with some liquid in it. And then let's just do cube. We're going to stretch that on the x-axis. Get it. Shorten it or flatten it. SD. Get it kind of flat like so. And we're going to move that down to just under there. Okay. And then Oh, I added it to that geometry. So, oops, because I have this in object mode or in edit mode. When I created this, it combined them together into one, and I don't really want them to be. So I'm going to make sure we have face selected, and I'm going to select all those faces. And then you have to separate it to break it apart. Okay. So now I have 4 separate objects. I have a glass, I have the whiskey, I have a coaster, and I have, I don't know what this is, shelf. Okay. So make sure we have materials applied to each one. This one doesn't have a material, so we'll do a new. We'll call it coaster. And I'm deliberately going to, I'm not going to separate the interior part here from this for a reason, because I'm going to do that in Substance Painter just to show you how to do it. But I could have made this a separate face as well by simply selecting, actually, let's do that. So, okay, we have coaster. This is a coaster, right? But what I want to do is we're going to call that coaster edge or coaster base. And then we're going to add another one, add a second material to this object. So we're going to call that coaster, to hit new. So now I have 2 materials here, and then I can rename this material. Coaster face. Something like that. Okay. And so when I click this object, it has both materials assigned, but we don't know which parts each one is applied to. So go into edit mode, select faces, and then hit that face right there. And we're going to say, we're going to coaster face, and we're going to assign it. Then we'll do select invert, selects everything else, do coaster base, and assign it. So now we have 2 separate materials applied to this. And so when that object comes into Second Life, that object, these are all going to be separate objects in a linked set. They will be linked together. This one will have 2 faces on it. This one will have 1 face or all faces. This one will be one with all faces. This is one with all faces. And this will have 2 faces, 1 face for the base and 1 face for the face. Okay. And then let's do something like a cube here. Make it really small. I'm gonna go over to here. Look at it from the side. I'm hitting 1 to do that, by the way. Then we're going to hit G to go down, to move it, and we're going to Z to move it down. About there. Scale it down to about there. Scale the whole thing. Set it right on top. And then move it over a little bit to here. Okay, I'm going to apply my transforms on that. Oh, I didn't UV map everything. Let me go ahead and do this, and then we'll come back and UV map it. So I want to go ahead and I'm going to use the mirror. I'm going to do the array modifier. Array. And we're going to do a bunch of them. And then we're going to space them out more, like that. And so I have them where I want them. We're going to apply that. So now they're separate geometries. And I want to get rid of these 2. So we're going to go here. And we'll select, with X-ray turned on, select everything. Hit delete and get rid of the faces. And that's done. There I have it, like so. It's just a little decoration, that's all. Okay, that's enough. That's a complicated enough model. But let's go ahead and finish our UV mapping. So I have that UV mapped. I didn't UV map this either, did I? Okay, so let's isolate that. Select that ring and that one. We'll do edge, mark seam. And then here we'll do edge, mark seam. Go into UV editing, select it, unwrap it. Okay. So that's UV map, that's UV map. Now we gotta do the coaster. Select that, and we will do edge, mark seam. Select this one, edge, mark seam. And then let's just do right here. Do edge, mark seam. Should be good enough. Unwrap it. That's curved. I don't like it being curved. Add a couple more seams like so. This should be flat, this should be curved. Okay, let's see what that does. Yeah, see it did that. This is the top. And then these are the sides. These are, it's okay. I'm not, if I was really being particular, I could try to flatten that out more, but I'm not going to worry about it. It'll just be slightly deformed. Okay, now this one is just a cube, so it should be pretty straightforward. I'm going to do UV, smart UV project on this one, which gets it like this. And the reason I did, okay, so why did I do that? I could have just gone back up here and reset that. Okay, so I could have done unwrap, and then you would get 6 faces like this. Oh, also, let's make sure we apply our transforms on that. So if you just unwrap it, you're going to get 6 faces because this cube has 6 faces. There's a top, a bottom, a left, a right, a front, and a back. And it's going to put them like this, but they're all the same size. They're square, but they're not square on here. The top one is, it's a big rectangle. The top and the bottom are the same. The left side and the right side are the same. The front and the back are the same. So you should have 3 completely different shapes, 2 copies of each of those shapes, and they should fit together. If you just unwrap it like this, what's going to happen is none of these faces are going to be contiguous. That means they're not going to be touching each other. And so it's going to put a different texture on each face, and those textures won't align at all, and the material that's on there won't flow across them. So you want to make it like seamless. You want it to fit together, and so they have to be 1, the right size, 2, the right shape, and then 3, the right orientation, and then they need to be stitched together. And so that's part of the challenge. So the best way I've found to do this is to do, we could do cube projection because it is a cube and it looks kind of like that. It's not quite what I want. So the way I do it is I do smart UV project. And I make sure that I have this set to horizontal and scale to bounds, and then unwrap it. Now it wrapped it this way. Now, why did I do horizontal? Most wood grains that I work with have a horizontal grain to it. And so it saves me from having to do any kind of rotation within Substance Painter when I apply a wood grain texture to that, if I want to have a wood grain. But it also just helps me to orient my materials to it correctly. So I could just do it like this and say, okay, this is good. But it's not going to flow from the front to the top and from the sides to the top. So in order to get that to happen, it's best to stitch these together in a way. So it's pretty simple to do. You just select a face. So you select like the side here, and you just right click and do stitch. And then you can do the same thing over here, stitch. And then select that and do stitch. And it's hard to tell because they're overlapping. So if you hit L, it's all one thing now. Oh, I guess it did it. Huh? Actually, I usually have to stitch more than that. Let's do this again, just to make sure I didn't screw something up. Apply my transform. Select everything. UV, Smart UV project, unwrap. All right, and they're sitting on top of each other here, but I want to move them apart, so let's separate them out so you can actually see the process as it happens. These are called islands, and the command that you use to select an island is L. So make sure nothing is selected. Mouse over the island you want and hit L, and it selects the island. Oh, one's already attached. See, it's already there. That's why. All right, so there's instead of 6 pieces, it actually did them as 5. So that's why I didn't have to do it as much. So this is already stitched together, so I can just come down here and stitch. And so it applied that other one. So now there's one on each end, and then I want to get this to attach to this. I can just click on the furthest most, the outermost seam there, and then hit stitch. And so now they're all stitched together this way. Then you just pick which one you want. So I kind of prefer to have it on the top, but I don't know which of these is the top. So to figure that out, you come back over here and you just click on the face. So this is the top face. So this is the top face. Okay. Now if I select everything and pay attention to where that is. Oh, it's still highlighted. Good. Okay. So this is the top. So I want the sides to be attached to the top. So you just click on that seam, stitch. Thank goodness for undo. All right, let's just do this. What is it doing? I don't know why it's doing that. All right, I just put it there. For some reason, they're not coming out as rectangles either. They're coming out as trapezoids, which is weird. And just move this back. Scale the whole thing down to fit inside the bounding box. Or I wonder what happens if I do unwrap. If I select everything and do unwrap now, since I stitched them, is it going to unstitch them? Nope. But it oriented it this way, so I want it to be oriented that way. And inside the box. Okay, there we go. So that's the base down here. It's done. And we'll apply a material to that, and we'll call it tray. I don't know. Coaster, the thing, right? And we don't have these. Okay. I like these, but it's not really what I wanted. So I could go back and do it over again, but I'm not. I'm just going to scale it on the Z-axis to make it thinner. Go to my one view, lower it back down, and then go into edit mode, select faces, and then I'm going to select all of these faces right here, and then go to face, poke faces. So put crisscrossing lines on there. Now go to 1 for vertex mode. Select the center vertex in each one and just go up a little bit. Okay. And then for that, we're going to apply our transforms. Then we're going to go to UV Met, Bing, UV editing, and I'm just going to select everything and tell it to Smart UV project it. And because these are going to be small, I don't really need to stitch them together. I think it's going to be okay. Plus, I'm not going to use a wood on there, so I think it'll be all right. So I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay, and then we'll call these decorations. I don't know. Okay, so now I have my tray. I have some decorations. I have a coaster. I have a glass, and I have the whiskey inside the glass. And then just for, I don't know, I was going to put an ice cube inside of it, but I'm not going to bother with that. Okay. Now, select everything, do one final apply transforms, and then set origin to geometry. And then now that I have this, I can export the whole thing using Collada. Make sure you go to operator presets and select SL and OpenSim static. This is not a rig model, so just select static. That sets everything correctly here. And then we're going to call this ski. Okay, so we are, I think we're done here, unless something doesn't work. Oh my God. I just did this whole video. I did the whole video in my intro over here, so you can't even see what I'm doing. There. Do I need to go back and redo it all? I don't know. I think you get the point. I think you got the point. It's just that you didn't get to see the exact steps I was taking. So let me make sure I reiterate the things that I'm not, because I don't want to go back and redo this video. So I have multiple parts to my object. I have a base that I call the tray. So let's go ahead and name that tray. These are called decorations. This is my coaster. This is my glass and my whiskey. Okay, so I've named the parts, but that's not what Substance Painter goes by. Now, the one thing that was a little tricky on this was how I set these faces up. So because I had it obscured and you couldn't really see it, I want to make sure it's covered well. So I have, I've gone to my materials tab and I clicked plus new and I created coaster base. Then I clicked this plus sign over here to add an additional material to this object. It's just like that. And then I hit new to name it. I don't need a third one, so I'm going to delete that, but that's the steps that you take to add it. Okay, so I have 2 of them. And then with this object selected, go into edit mode, select this face, pick coaster face and hit assign. Then do select invert and do coaster base and assign. And so that this coaster base material gets applied to everything except for the bottom part, which gets the coaster face material applied to it. All right. Everything else I think was pretty straightforward, so I don't think I need to redo it. Yeah. I'm only putting this video up for particularly one person to watch. So if I need to redo this so everybody else can see it, then we'll do that. Okay. Let's see. So there's all my parts, and let's just go make sure I do my export again. Export Collada, operator presets, select OpenSim static, name it. It's going to go into my documents and hit boom, and there it goes. Okay, so we're done in Blender. Again, if I need to redo that again, I can redo it again for people. So I don't really want to, but I can. All right, so we're going to go to Substance Painter, and this is, I think this is saved, so we're good. So I'm going to go ahead and do new. And for this one, we're going to use the input template called PBR Metallic Roughness Alpha Blend, because I know parts of this need to be transparent, so I need to use an alpha blend for that. So PBR Metallic Roughness Alpha Blend Starter Assets. Select my model, which is in my documents, right there, Whiskey Glass. I like setting it to resolution of 2048, and make sure you put normal map to OpenGL, because Second Life uses OpenGL, not DirectX. And discard. Should be all right. That's my game table that I've been working on. So, okay, there we go. There's our model. Now I'm going to set my lighting up, and I'm going to pick a two-sided panorama. If you don't know what that is, I have a video on how to create that. That's so that it lights it all the way around instead of only lighting it on one side. With the normal panorama, if you just use a regular panorama, one side will be dark, one side will be lit. This way it gets light all the way around it. Then you got to go to Mode, Bake Mesh Maps. Under the common settings, we're going to say use low poly mesh as high poly mesh. We're going to set the output size to 2048. And that's it. And then under ambient occlusion, move secondary rays to 256. On curvature, move secondary rays to 256. And on thickness, move secondary rays to 256. You don't need height bent normals, but we do. Do we need that? There's no opacity map, so I don't think we actually need that. Yeah, I don't think we need it. There's no opacity map that gets created. So I think it's okay. And then hit bake. Let it do its thing. And while you're doing this, look at it and watch what it's doing and make sure that it doesn't look deformed. If it's deformed, that means your UV maps are not correct. You should be able to see checkerboards, patterns on all of the faces. And then when it's done, you should have a clear shading. You shouldn't have any like triangles showing through or any kind of weird stuff. You get a lot of that. Okay, this looks good. All right, so we're going to hit back to return to painting mode. And then if you look over here under your texture set list, this is the list of materials that we created in Blender. So you have a coaster base, and if you can turn the eyeball off, you can see it hides it. Coaster face is that part. And see, it just treats them as separate parts. You don't have to worry about them. It's just separate parts because each one has a separate material. Decorations, the tray, the whiskey glass, and there's the whiskey. Turn them all back on. All right. Now we can start looking at this and start applying some materials. So for this tray, I want to have a wooden base tray. So I'm going to go to my assets down here, and I'm going to type in wood. And it should show me, this is all using tags and stuff. So if things aren't tagged correctly, then things will not show up. But should be tagged correctly. And so I have a smart material that I really like. So there's two kinds of materials in Substance Painter. There's regular materials and there's smart materials. What's the difference? Well, a regular material, a plain old material, is just a simple material like this wood texture. So if I drag this and put it on here, it's just the wood. There's nothing else added to it. And then I can modify that. So like if I want it to look, if that grain is too big, I can use tiling here and I can set it to maybe 2. And now it got smaller. If I don't like the rotation on it, I can change the rotation. I can offset it. I can do all those things to adjust the way it looks. But that's really it. That's all I can really do with just what's the material settings are. Now, I can go down here and I can look at this and I can change the wood color. So this used this color wood, but if I wanted it to be a little darker color wood, I could just come in here and adjust it. Now it's a little darker. I can also adjust things like wood color variation. And so all of these parameters are things that were set up in Substance Designer, which is a node-based tool for creating these materials. And so these are all the things that they expose that we have the ability to change on this one single material. So I can do the color variation. I can adjust that, and you can see it has an effect. I can do vein contrast. I can do what kind of cut there is on the wood. This is a live cut. It also supports a plane cut. See how that looks? Do you see the differences there? There's a rift cut. There's a crown cut. And there is a live cut, which is what it had the first time. I kind of like that rift cut. Let's go with that. And then there's more things like how many knots do I have, so I don't have any knots, or I can add a bunch of knots. A little bit. And then fibers, you can adjust the way the fibers look. And then this is the wood varnish filter, so you can actually adjust that. These are parameters that affect the varnish that's on here, how shiny it is and how reflective it is. So you get a lot of controls that you can get with just from this one normal, regular old material, right? So then you're wondering, well, then what the hell's the difference between that? Because that seems pretty smart to me. What's the difference between that and a smart material? Well, a smart material has a bunch of other stuff added to it. And it's done with layers, just like you would do layers in Photoshop. So you could actually have 2 or 3 different materials that combine using different kinds of layer masks or alpha masks, as well as things like filters and other features of Substance Painter applied. And you can do all of that here in Substance Painter. So if I wanted to apply some kind of filter, I could actually come in here and say, maybe I want this to look a little worn or aged. I can go in and let's do it up here. So I'm going to apply what we call a mask. So I'm going to do add a mask, and I want a black mask. Then I'm going to click on the black mask, and I'm going to click on add generator. And then in generator, I'm going to select dirt. So it applies a dirt generator onto that material. And then I can adjust how that is, how it looks and how it's affected. So this dirt is white, but I can adjust the color of that, and I can adjust how it looks and how it's applied. And I can do things like how much dirt, right? I can do contrast of the dirt and use triplanar. How much grunge to apply. So there's all these different parameters that we can use to affect that as well. And if I don't want the dirt to be white, I can actually set the dirt to be black and apply that as well. So there's lots of different things you can do to modify the way this material looks. And then when you're done and you have all these different stacks in your parameters here, you can actually then save that and save it as a smart material, give it a name, And then the next time you want to apply that exact same effect with this wood grain, with this kind of dirt and this kind of thing and this kind of shadows and all that, you just need to pull that one thing, that one material, that smart material, and it applies all of those things for you automatically. So I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to show you some of the smart materials that are in here. So all of these smart materials, that's exactly what they've done. So they've taken basic things, like this is a similar looking base wood, right? Let's put that on there. And so you get color variations. You notice how you can see there's like a grunge underneath here that's making this area more yellow than, say, over here. It's got scratches, it's got dents, it's got edge detection. You'll notice, see along the edges how the edges are worn down. So someone took the time to go through and create this, and that's why there's a folder icon here. And if you open that folder up, you can see these are all the things that are inside that smart material. And then you can just open them up and keep drilling down to see what they've put in here. And this is kind of how you learn to create your own smart materials. You can look at this. So there's the base underlying wood. It's wood 1, and it has a color correct and a HSL perspective done on it, which gives you this layer. And then there's another one here. It's a different kind of wood. See, it's a different wood, wood 2. And it's using a mask, and it uses the same thing here. This is using this with this mask applied, and it's how it shows on here. But because it's a smart material, you don't really need to play with these if you just want to use it the way it was designed to be used by whoever created it. Or I can pick a different one. So like I like this one. Where's it at? Called wood 1. Where's my wood 1? There it is. This one. I like this one. I think it's a really good looking wood. So we'll go with that. See, it has so much detail, right? It's got all these little pock marks and stuff, and some stains and some scratches and stuff. Got a nice sheen to it. All right, so then we're going to do these decorations. So for the decorations, what I want to do is something metal. So let's pick a metal. Same thing. I can pick a simple smart material and then apply a bunch of things to it to make it look how I want. Or I can use a smart material that someone's already done that for me. And there's like let's do something with gold, but like this is damaged gold. Search for the word gold. Oh, there it is. That's the one I want right there. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to apply that to these decorations. And you'll notice that, see, it's got edge. The edge is like a different than the faces. And then there's a bunch of details and stuff added to these. And so it's just one drag. I don't have to do a bunch. Now I can if I want to. I can do more if I wanted to do more. But I'm not gonna. All right, so then this face is, we're going to do another wood. And I'm going to do something different. If I could spell, that would help. Let's pick something darker, like this one. It's had a really distinctive edge on it. I don't think I like that. So you can just trial and error picking things and dropping them on. That's kind of cool. Let's go with that one. All right, so I'm just going to delete these to help lower my memory usage. since I'm not using them. And then for this down here, I want something plastic or leather. Let's go leather. And I like this one right here. Let's try that. So there you go. It's got a leather surface on it. Now this glass, I want to use glass. So glass is kind of tricky. So these are smart materials for glass. And then these are regular materials. Let's just use a regular material. Glass chromatic plane. Let's put that in here. And then you got to make sure opacity is turned on here. So now it's see-through. Roughness determines how reflective the surface is, and right now it's set to fully reflective. If I take this down, it gets less shiny. So I want it to be somewhat shiny, but I don't want it to be like a mirror. So let's put it to about here. You can change the refraction, chromatic intensity, irregularity. If you have dirt on there, how much dirt do you have? I want to lower the dirt size. Stain. The amount of dirt. Okay, and this is the color of the glass. So I want this to have kind of this color. Oh no, do I want that? Or I want it to be clear. I think I want it to be clear. So undo that. It's the liquid inside there that I think I want to have be different. Okay. Now I'm going to use the same for this liquid. I don't have there's not like a liquid. At least I don't think so. Let's see if I can find any kind of liquid. Milk is the only liquid I have. All right, so let's go back to glass. Glass will work. And then for that, make sure we turn opacity on. And then what I want to do is change that color to be the color of color-ish of whiskey. It's really shiny. I don't think I want it to be that shiny. I'm going to take that roughness down. And then on this, I don't want any kind of, very little reflection. It doesn't look good here. I don't know why. It's kind of weird. It's the alpha going through. So we may have to change the way we're doing this glass to get it to work well. I know I have this, which I've used successfully. So let's try that and see what happens. Not the whiskey. Let's leave the whiskey here. Whiskey glass. So that's what the glass looks like. It's a very dirty looking glass. Make sure my shaders are all set up. Main shader. Okay. Let's see what's inside here. There's the base. And see, they in this smart material, they have opacity already turned on. And it's turned on here. Okay, so let's go with that. It's a funky looking glass, but that's okay. And then it's got a brownish liquid inside it. Before I do that, let me just make sure that this, there it is. This is the color of that base. That's what the color you're seeing right there. Let's lighten that up a little bit. And the glass is very dirty. That's what you're seeing in here. It's got this dirt layer. That's what it looks like without the dirt. All right. Anyway, for now, this is good enough. So, all right, we have it done here. So, all right, now we're going to get ready to put it into Second Life. So we're going to export this. And the way to do that is you go to File, Export Textures. Then you need an output template. And so the output template that I have is one that I created for Second Life, which is for Blend Fong. All right. This is the old style materials. So I'm going to go up here to my output template and pick the one I have created for Second Life. If you want to learn how to do that, it's in another one of my videos. It's beyond the scope of what we're doing here to really explain. This is the settings that I use. I use 16 bits, and then I set dilation to default background. We'll save that. If I wanted to show you how to do the output template, so this is the output template. I go down here and pick it. You can add new ones. You do a new one just by clicking plus there and then name it. So I created that name Second Life. And then I have 4 files that get created, 4 output files. I have a diffuse map, a normal map, specular map, and an AO map. And then I added all 4 of those. And the way you create an out is right here with this create button. So if I wanted to create one that is like this diffuse uses RGB, so it's color. So I would just click RGB and it creates this layer. And then this is blank. This is what map do I use to generate this, and then I actually select this 2D view. So you take the 2D view and you put it here. The next one is the normal map. It's also RGB because it's color. So you would hit RGB to create this. And then you would go down here and say, okay, what do I need to fill this with to make it be my normal? And that would be the normal OpenGL, because for Second Life we use OpenGL. So you pick normal OpenGL and you put that here. Then the last one is specular. And so specular is not color, it's grayscale. So you click gray, it creates this layer. And then actually I put these names in here too. So this is basically saying use the name of the texture set, which is this, dot diffuse. So this would be whiskey glass dot diffuse, whiskey glass dot normal, whiskey glass dot specular, and then the last one's AO. So specular is grayscale, so you click gray to get this, and then you say, okay, what do I need to go in the grayscale for the specular? And that's over here. In these converted maps, you want specular, so you would basically just drag specular there. And then you tell it gray channel. Okay, I didn't show you how to do this, so I'll do it. So, okay, so you have the first one up here is diffuse, so you would click RGB to get this. You would put this information in there. And then what goes in here? Well, that's the 2D view, so I take the 2D view and I drag it in there. And I say RGB channels because it's color. And then for the normal, I would go grab normal OpenGL, pop that in there and say RGB. Specular, you grab the specular and you drop it in there and say gray. And then this one is the AO. And it's this mixed AO. So you take the mixed AO, you drop it in there, and you say gray. And that's how you create this. And then you just save it. So that's how I created that. Once it's created, I can then apply it. And so these are the different texture sets that are over here. These are the texture sets, and it's going to generate all 4 of those files for each one of these. If I don't want that, I can turn off, like if I don't want AO for something, I can turn it off like this, and then it will only generate these 3. But I'm going to go ahead and do all 4. So we're going to generate all 4. And then it puts things into my export folder, which I have saved. I have it saved into my quick list over here in Windows. All right, so just hit export. And it's going to do its thinking, processing, and then it's going to generate all those different files. So you see there's whiskey.diffuse, whiskey.normal, whiskey.specular, whiskey.ao. Then there's decorations, diffuse, normal, specular, AO, tray, diffuse, normal, specular, AO, whiskey glass, diffuse, normal, specular, AO, blah, 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 blah. And it puts those into my export folder. Okay, that's going to give me everything I need for Blend Phong. And then for PBR, you just do the export again. And then this time, instead of choosing Second Life, you actually choose GLTF. Well, if you look, there is no GLTF. It's in alphabetical order. So there's Corona, CryEngine, Dota, Keyshot. Well, where's GLTF? It's not in this list. You just scroll all the way up, keep going, and then you'll see there it is. And the one I want is GLTF PBR metal roughness. So you pick that. And now it's going to create all of the different maps that I need for GLTF, which for PBR, which is the base color map, the ORM map, the emissive map, and a normal map. And if you click on these, you'll see they're listed here. So it's going to create a base color, metallic, roughness, occlusion, a normal, and an emissive. Because I'm not using height and displacement and those other ones that you can use because Second Life doesn't support them. So it only is going to use these. And then all you do is just hit export. And there are all the different maps that you need. So you can upload those maps individually, but there's a faster and easier way of doing that as well. Okay, so let's jump into Second Life. Okay, so here I am in Second Life, and let's go ahead and import that model. So that's the first thing we need to do, and that's go to build, upload, mesh model. And remember where it's at. There it is, whiskey glass, open. Now if I look at this, it's probably going to be gigantic because I didn't really pay attention to how big it was. Yeah, it's 13.9 meters by 4.9 meters. So let's do 0.1. Even that's still gigantic. So. All right, let's see. Let's just do that. Calculate. See how expensive. That's not so bad. Six prims. I can lower the LI by changing these parameters, but for this I don't care. Upload. There it is. It's called Coaster. There it is, and I zoom in, and I have my model. Now you notice it's gray. That's because by default it sets it to gray. So just go to Texture, Blend Phong, change this to white. Okay. And there we have it. Now I'm going to upload my Blend Phong materials. And so to do that, we're going to go Build, Upload, Bulk, go to my Export folder, and pick the AO Diffuse Normal Specular. And so that's the AO Normal, not this normal, it's this normal. It's dot normal, so it's named differently. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's not an easy way to do this for Blend Phong. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's all of the ones I need. Hit open and upload them. And then it's doing its business. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to apply the AOs to this so you can see what it looks like. And that's what normally when you see a mesh model in Second Life, it has an AO applied to it, so it looks white with shadows, right? Right now it doesn't look like that at all. So we'll apply those first, and then we'll play with it. Do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 times 4. That's 24 files to upload. Okay. So let's go ahead and just apply these AOs. So coaster base is this part. Okay. Coaster face is this part. And then decorations is this part. Tray is this part. Whiskey is this part. And then whiskey glass is that part. Okay, so that's what it looks like with the AO. Why it still looks gray to me. Does gray still apply? Oop. Okay, so there you go. There it is with just the AO applied. Now, what I could do is if I was making this to be a prefab or something and sell it like this, I would sell that. And most people would be pretty happy with it like that, right? But we already have the materials on here, so we're going to go ahead and color it. So let's just go back and edit this and select the faces and then select coaster base face, which is the first one on the list. Go to texture, blend fong, and we're going to drop those in to fuse. Boom. Normal, specular, coaster face, diffuse, normal, specular, decorations, diffuse, normal, specular, tray, diffuse, normal, specular, whiskey, diffuse, normal, specular, and then the whiskey glass, diffuse, normal, specular. Okay, so that's as is, that's the materials that got applied. Now, blend fong does not come out to be transparent. So how do you make it transparent? Well, you edit it, and then you just adjust the transparency. Not the whole thing. Select the face, and start applying some transparency to it. You can do the same thing for the liquid, make the liquid transparent. And there you go. From a blend fong perspective, looks kind of like that. You can make it more transparent if you want, but it's up to you. Okay. Now let's go ahead and apply our PBR materials. And so to do that, we go back to build, we go to upload, but instead of uploading the individual files through bulk import, we're just going to upload the material. And then you'll notice that there's 2 files here that got created. One's very small and one's big. You select the one that's bigger. And then it's going to say, okay, this material is actually a bunch of materials. Do you want to just do one of them for one part, or do you want to do all of them? And so I could do one by one, or I could say, go ahead and give it to me. Give me all of them. Bulk upload all. And now it's going to actually go through and upload all of the individual maps. So it's going to upload the 4 maps for each of the 6 different parts. Once I hit upload. And this takes some time, so it's a little slower doing this than it is with blend fong for some reason. So, yep, so it's going to upload. Because I didn't save my if I had saved my Substance Painter file and given it a meaningful name, then that file name would be a lot smaller. So right now it's cutting everything off, so you don't even know what's what. But the funny thing is, I never use these. These are the individual files that get created, get uploaded, the individual maps, but I never use them. Almost never. Instead, what I use are the ones that come in here in the materials. You get the actual completed materials for each part. That's the part that I actually use. Okay, got one more to do. Boom, 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 boom. Da-da-da, da-da-da. Okay, it's done. Now, because I used an input template that had alpha blend, what it did was it created these materials with alpha blending turned on, which is fine for the transparent parts, but I don't want it for the non-transparent parts. So let's go ahead and we're going to double click on the ones that are non-transparent and we'll edit them. It opens up the editor over there. These two we don't need to worry about because they can be transparent. And then you just go to the alpha mode, blend, and set it to opaque, and then save. Okay. Blend, opaque, save. Blend, opaque, save. Blend, opaque. Okay, now just drag them on. So let's start at the bottom. Coaster base is this part. Coaster face is that part. Decorations is this part. Tray is this part. And whiskey is inside there. And whiskey glass is outside here. And there you go. Now, I don't have, do I even have a reflection probe around this area? I don't, doesn't look like I do. So we turn on build, options, show reflection probe. I do. So I am inside of the reflection probe here. Build, options, select reflection probe volumes. There's my reflection probe. Let's check my settings. Features. Let's do something like 20. There. All right. Ta-da! That's what it looks like in PBR. We have a glass that is transparent with a reflective surface and a liquid in it that is also transparent. And you have, you have your all scratched up looking, grungy looking wood there. You have leather here, and the leather is actually showing through. And then you have these decorations looking good. Everything looks pretty cool. And that's about the best you're going to get with dealing with these things, with the transparencies and stuff. It's not perfect, but it does work. So anyway, that's the process. So let me know if you have any questions. I'll post this video so you can take a look at it. And then, yeah, with the caveat that the beginning part is screwed up.